What's up, ladies and gentlemen? SmashJT2988 coming at you live from the power of the internet. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about, is there too much repetition on YouTube? JT. That opening, copying Boogie2988, that's not a jab at him. He's not someone that typically copies other channels, but it got me thinking a lot about all the bigger channels and the influences that they have on smaller channels, and the landscape of how YouTube is put together for a small channel to succeed is extremely challenging. First off, this is kind of an unsolvable riddle for YouTube, the way it's grown in such massive scale exponentially over the past few years, and how there's a glutton of creators out there and only so many eyes to view the content. It becomes a challenge of who to watch with the limited time you have to be watching YouTube. And the reason why I decided to make this video is because the more I watch YouTube, the more repetitive content that I see on it, the more redundancy, the more same videos over and over by different creators, doing pretty much the same thing, covering the story in a very similar way to other channels, trying to get ahead on YouTube. And I don't necessarily blame them because of how YouTube is set up with the algorithm. If you want to get your channel noticed in this day and age on YouTube, you need to cover the trending topics. But just covering them isn't enough. You also need to get lucky and be recommended after a popular channel so that your video gets views from those people, and hopefully some of them decide to subscribe to you based off your personality and how you present that content. And therein lies the unsolvable riddle for YouTube, because it's causing everybody to make the same content. Now, people who hear this might disagree with me and say, no, that's not the case. You need to make unique content to stand out on YouTube. Yes, you're more than welcome to make unique content, but you will not be found by the algorithm. Nobody will find you unless YouTube themselves looks at your video and puts it on the trending page. There is no way your videos will be found. The large channels are already established and they're the trendsetters. You're able to make a crazy, wacky video as a large channel and have a much higher chance of it panning out because you already have the established audience to be watching your content. Now, it can be a bit risky, especially if it varies so much from your original content that it turns off your audience, but if you make it really well and do a good job with it, it has a much higher chance of success than a smaller channel doing it. So that's why it's so important to become a larger channel so that you can be an influencer to the community if you want to create videos and have them be seen that are being made that have nothing to do with anything out there, like JonTron making a skit that people will actually watch, or Peanut Butter Gamer talking about a game that's 40 years old that people actually would find interest in because he presents it in a really unique way. Now people would say, yeah, but if Peanut Butter Gamer made those kind of videos right now, or JonTron made those videos right now, and they had 0 subscribers and nobody knew of them, they would shoot right to the top because those videos are so good. And I would disagree with that, because I feel like there's a ton of great creators out there under 1,000 subscribers. Heck, some of them are under 500 subscribers that have a ton of unique, awesome content that just need to be showcased and noticed, and YouTube isn't doing that for them. And a lot of people are getting depressed and frustrated because they keep putting all their effort into these videos and not getting the views from them. And my heart really goes out to them because they're not growing at the rate that I would expect them to be growing at, and definitely not the rate they're probably expecting to be growing at. And that's why it's so hard to get ahead right now on YouTube, because if you're a small channel, you get tossed in the mix with all these other crappy small channels where your videos aren't viewed by anybody because YouTube sees you as someone who's just doing this for fun. Where back in the day, there were far less creators and far more unique places to find your content. Nowadays, it's all filtered right to YouTube, and all the people are already established and successful, which is kind of part of the reason why I made SmashJT.com in the first place, so that I could showcase not necessarily tiny channels, but channels that deserve way more recognition than what they're getting. So if you guys aren't familiar with SmashJT.com, I always highlight one creator of the month every month, and at least 10 videos, usually more than that, that I absolutely adore, that everybody should definitely be watching. And because everybody's trying to get ahead on YouTube, it becomes almost like this slippery slope cycle where the information will come out, big time creators will make it, Smaller creators will try to make it as fast as possible with them and hopefully be recommended after those larger channels, but sometimes they won't be and their content will just go without views. Which can be extremely discouraging because even if you do it better than the big channels, people aren't watching you because you haven't established yourself yet. And every day that passes, it gets more and more challenging to establish yourself on the YouTube platform because there are just so many creators out there. Now this goes back to a question that was asked earlier, is if there are too many YouTube creators out there, which I don't want to get into saying this is saying that there are too many YouTube creators. That's not what I'm getting at all with this. In fact, like I said in my video asking if there were too many YouTube creators, I said no, there were just too many YouTube creators hoping to be successful. And because that's happening, it's creating a logjam of all the eyeballs trying to see content and everyone rushing to the same point to try to get those eyes to watch them. And you might say, well, why don't you just create unique content, stuff that people would want to watch that no one else is doing? Well, personally, I've done that. I've been doing that. I integrate that kind of content into my channel in addition to covering news and hot trending topics as well. But people will say, why aren't you doing more smashing videos with your 30-pound mallet? Those are the worst performing videos on my channel. People might ask, why don't you do more skits? Those are also the worst performing videos on my channel. Even though I feel like they are some of the best videos I make, they don't get the eyeballs because they don't fall into any kind of algorithm with YouTube, and therein lies the biggest problem. YouTube themselves is trying to drive views as much as possible, and to drive the views, they're trying to be trendy, they're trying to be news source, they're trying to be the go-to place for information, almost like the Twitter of TV. But by YouTube going that direction with how their algorithm works, it's creating that logjam of content where everyone keeps making the same thing. It's not the creators' faults. I don't even necessarily think it's YouTube's fault, to be honest, because they're doing exactly what I would expect a business to do to grow. They're trying to capture as many people from as many different audiences as possible, and by focusing on trending topics, that's working for them. And maybe the pendulum will swing back into more unique creative content that YouTube would want to focus on in the future. I don't see that happening anytime soon. But it is kind of an unsolvable riddle for YouTube because they want to get as many people to the platform as possible, and they want to showcase as many creators as possible, and all these creators are trying to get noticed, but by trying to get noticed, they're all creating the same type of content, hoping that by some huge stroke of luck, their channel gets noticed over all these other channels doing the same thing, even though there are even bigger channels that have already been successful in the algorithm before it changed to this gigantic shift of focusing on breaking news and hot trending topics. People used to be able to get ahead on YouTube just by talking to the camera, just by making unique skits or doing things that other channels weren't doing. There are channels out there like the Grumpy Munchkins, Comedy and Gaming, that has like right now 3,000-ish subscribers that provides content on par with Video Game Donkey, who has millions of subscribers. But yet, YouTube does not highlight Grumpy because he's not popular like Donkey is. There are so many incredibly great small channels out there that don't get the attention they deserve. And if I spent the time in this video talking about each one that needs the recognition, this video would be over an hour long. My point is, YouTube needs to do a better job of highlighting these smaller channels so that they get the recognition alongside these really large channels. Because who knows, some of them actually may grow faster if they got the eyeballs on them. But again, this is part of the challenge of being a small channel this day and age on YouTube. I don't want this video to come off as me bitching and moaning about how hard it is to be successful on YouTube. Instead, I want people to look at this as more of a, it's what's happening with YouTube and it's the reality of the situation. Take it as you will. Unfortunately, we as creators are at the hands of YouTube, depending on if we'll be successful or not. Has very little to do with what our content actually entails, and way more to do with if YouTube wants a channel to be successful over another one. I watched a video from a channel called How Ridiculous, where they dropped a huge block of ice onto a trampoline from like 30 meters in the air. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I looked and saw that it had like 15 million views on it. I go, seems easy enough. Why don't I just try to recreate that kind of content with my own unique spin on it? And ergo, that's where I got the Smash Mallet and the idea to start smashing stuff. Because I wanted to make my channel unique. I wanted to get something to make it stand out so that people would notice what I'm doing here that would be different than everybody else covering trending topics. And when I made those videos of smashing the milk gallons and smashing the amiibo and having fun with that, albeit a ton of work with setting the cameras up and editing it, getting it all done, and then making the video, publishing it, and seeing it get like 200, 250 views. It's some of my worst performing videos out there, and it really discourages me from making more of those. Now, people might hear that and say, well, you shouldn't be making videos trying to be successful, or you shouldn't make videos trying to get as many views as possible. I'm trying to be successful on YouTube right now. I want to get as many views as possible, and I want to do that in a very unique way without lying or clickbaiting people into doing that. Unfortunately, the way YouTube is set up, they kind of trend towards clickbaiting people into watching their videos. And when I say clickbait, I don't mean it in the general sense of you have an image of something and then you don't talk about it at all in your video. Yeah, that's clickbait. PewDiePie is probably the exhibit A of the worst channel that would do that in the first place. But it works for him. And I fall for it all the time, and I click on his thumbnails and I watch his videos and I'm like, those two don't have anything to do with each other. But his videos are so damn good that I don't get upset about the clickbait. That's a very thin line to be walking. Anyways, I just want to get my thoughts out there for this discussion, because I feel like it's not the creator's fault. A little bit of the blame falls on YouTube, but I can understand why they're heading in this direction. But it's only going to get worse as time progresses if YouTube doesn't do anything about it. Let me know down in the comment section below. Do you guys feel like there's way too much redundant content on YouTube? And if so, how would you fix it? That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.